Our theme this month is transformation. And my topic today is when yes greets surrender. When yes greets surrender. When I was looking up the affirmations, my practice is always to just be with them Saturday night before I go to bed and let it ruminate inside. And because of the logistics of things, I typically do the topics and the affirmations weeks in advance. So I get a little disconnected from them and like which one is which week, so I want to make sure that I land into that. And I was actually surprised when I saw it and I glanced over it and I first read it as when yes meets surrender. Something inside said, no, you need to go back and look at that again. And it didn't say when yes meets surrender, when yes greets surrender. So last night, my mind was just mulling over, what's the difference between meeting surrender and greeting surrender? There are already some chuckles, so that's different. But before I talk about surrender, I want to speak for a moment about transformation. Because transformation is powerful, it's progressive, and when we use that term, we're usually speaking of it in the positive. I want to be specific about that. All change is not transformation. All change is not transformation. And a lot of times, we just want things to be different. I'm tired of being where I am. You know, my mentor Beckwith always taught us pain pushes what? Until vision pulls. Pain pushes until vision pulls. And a lot of times, we're just looking for something different. Particularly in our society, we got to be doing something all the time. But all change does not result in transformation. Let that sink in for a moment. All evolution does not result in transformation. Evolution is an organic process, but it basically means the seed of whatever that is going to grow into being whatever is the natural outcome. That isn't always necessarily good news. Really. You can evolve from being a casual drinker. Okay, so I don't even have to finish that one. We can go on to the next. To evolve just means it's going along its natural progression. And in fact, a lot of times, I can hear my grandmother in my head now. My mother's mother, she used to say, nip it in the bud. Like, nip it in the bud. Because she knew that unchecked, whatever that was would keep growing and evolve into exactly wherever it was going to go. Like, if you don't change your direction, you're going to wind up where you're headed. It's true. But all change isn't transformation. Now, growth gets us a little bit closer. Growth is better than just change. Growth isn't quite transformation yet. Because once again, we can keep growing, but I find a lot of times we have parameters on how much we're going to grow. It's like, I've done enough. I've had my quota. This is as much compassion as I'm going to do right now. This is as much truth-telling as I'm going to do right now. I've reached my threshold. This is as much discomfort as I'm willing to take in this moment. I'm done. Okay? So there's a way that we try to control our growth. Time it where we want to time it. Have it how we want it to be. Even create the circumstances and the conditions under which we choose or don't choose to grow. So we've got change, we've got evolution, we've got growth, but transformation goes to another level. See, I love the way that it's described in the Sacred Yes, these downloads, these spiritual messages. This is when something truly transforms, it can no longer be recognized for what it used to be. Let that sit in. When something truly transforms, it can no longer be recognized for what it used to be. Transformation's scary. It's scary because of that. Because it's not just a new and improved version of you. It's a new you. Transformation isn't just a new and improved. Transformation is a new one. It's so new that you can't even see what it used to be. I've been doing prison outreach for 18 years. And you know how passionate I am about it. And one of the things I love is when our former inmates, particularly the former lifers, come to church. Yes? Yes? And if I didn't tell you that they had been lifers, you would never have known it. You wouldn't have had any idea. So much so that the last time some of them were here, we made a pact with them. I said, I'm done. I'm done with that association. I appreciate you being here and letting the community see what that's like and that the transformation can happen. And that's not your identity out in the world, and that's not the identity that we're going to keep putting on you. Think about your own life. Are you willing to transform? Are you willing to no longer be what you used to be? I've been very consciously aware of my graduation from ministerial school lately. Last weekend, it was 22 years. And as I mentioned earlier, the school that I graduated from has campuses in various locations, and the graduation was in Santa Cruz at the local Centers for Spiritual Living Church here, which was the church that I used to be with before we started Interlight. And I personally hit what's known as the dark hour of the soul during that moment when I finally went back to ministerial school to finish that last year. I was essentially the interim minister at the local religious science church here, a dropout from ministerial school, about 10-year dropout by that point in time. And Spirit was like, no, you're going to do this, whether you are formally a minister or not. You're going to do this thing called being in the pulpit and being a minister. And what just hit me right now was this song that I used to sing, that I am being told to sing for you. Oof. Because this is so private. But I'm obedient. My life was messed up, from the flow up to the flow down at that particular point in time, and I was just starting to hear those spirit letters for myself. In the midst of a really terrible breakup, I had messed up. Everything was messed up. Just turning 40. It was like, okay, God, you got me. I'm willing to do this transformation thing. Whatever it is, I'm finally tired of trying to still hold on to some part of me and still grow. I was a fabulous practitioner. I was. But I knew I wasn't quite ready for ministry. There was something missing. There was something not there. And there was this song I used to sing. And I told Jesus that it would be all right to change my name. And I told Jesus it would be all right to change my name. And I told Jesus that it would be all right, be all right, be all right. And I told Jesus that it would be all right to change my name. But your mother, she won't know your child if I change your name. Your brother won't know your child if I change your name. But I told Jesus it would be all right. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. I told Jesus that it'll be all right if you changed my name. And that was the moment I became Reverend Deborah Johnson. That wasn't, I didn't hatch Reverend Deborah Johnson. I had to transform into Reverend Deborah Johnson. And that's not to say that that's a finished product. It's to say it's a new beginning. Like I was telling the ministerial students graduating yesterday, I said, we call it a graduation ceremony, but I like it more when we call it a commencement ceremony. Because graduation gives you the feeling that you're at the end. When in fact it's commencing, it's a new beginning. There's always the cycles. Like your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, just become a freshman again someplace else. Happening over and over and over again. I said, so no matter how much you've learned, you got to come at it with beginner's mind now. Like Jesus says, come under this stuff as a little child. See, this is the surrender part. Yes, it's fine But yes without surrender isn't going to get you transformation. Even just your yes meeting surrender isn't going to get you transformation. What does it mean to greet? Oh. See, when you greet somebody, you're happy. When you greet, you're open. See, when you greet, you're welcoming. You're embracing. When you greet, there's no more separation. If I greet you, I am creating the space for us to be here and to share and to do it together. When I greet you, there's no more hesitancy. There's no othering. There's no distancing. I'm not trying to posture myself in any kind of way. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. When you open up that door and Spirit's knocking, you know the difference between when you just open the door to meet who's on the other side. Versus you open up to greet the person on the other side. See, I can open up the door and meet you and just stand right there and have the whole conversation, waiting for you to go. I'm meeting you. But when I greet you, I step aside and I open up the door and I let you in. And I know something's going to happen. When you come in, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm anticipating it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Even if it's hard, even if there's tears, even if it's going to be a tough conversation, or maybe you're mourning, or one of us is grieving, or something. Who knows why you're there? But if I greet you, my heart is open. Okay? My heart is open, and there's going to be an exchange between us. We're going to rub off on each other a little bit. I'm thinking now, I got a lot of my Bible students in the house here from Holmes Institute. In the Garden of Eden, there were the two trees in the east section. One was the tree of life, and the other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You could eat of anything, but don't eat of that second tree, the duality tree. This knowledge is an experiential something. It means literally to consummate. He knew her in a biblical way. This is not a cognitive knowing, it's an experiential know. It's like I can say, I know there's a New York. That's a cognitive knowing. But if I say, I know you, that means there's a relationship between us. Are you with me? This is to be still and know I'm God. This is not, don't read some book. Don't listen to some sermon about. Be still and know me. Be still enough to relate to me, to have an experience with me, to know me, to greet me. You consummate with somebody. There's an opening there. There's a greeting that's happening there. Your yes has to greet the surrender. Now, you hear me say all the time, the English language is so terrible. Because it's not a language of the Spirit. We're always recycling words. So you have words that have dual meanings. They have a secular meaning and they have a spiritual meaning. Now I know that word surrender in the secular sense means defeat. You say, well, why would I want to surrender? That means giving up hope. That means acknowledging the fact that you failed. It means giving this other thing, like all of the power, all of the credit. That's what it means in the secular realm. But that's not what surrender means in the spiritual context. Surrender isn't losing the fight. It's letting go of the fight. It's not losing it. It's letting it go. It's choosing not to be in a fight. It's about changing the narrative in your mind, the story in your mind, that there is even a fight. Listen to what I just said. You know, there's a story I love to tell because it just was that peak moment for me. When I went to Beckwith's house, Reverend Michael Beckwith, well, he wasn't Reverend at the time, but when I was training with him, he was a practitioner. When I was a practitioner under him, when I was doing practitioner training under him, he was still a practitioner. So, you know, I'm at the door, and we grew up together, so, you know, I kind of talk, like, Michael, dude! It's like, dude! I said, the wolf is at the door! This is literally the greeting. This is the example, just as I said. I knock on his door. I don't think I'd actually ever gone to a practitioner before, even though I was in practitioner training, honestly. And I was in a lot of credit card debt at the time. I had quit my corporate job, but I had agreed to support my former partner through chiropractic school, and I wanted to keep that commitment. But I'd over-leveraged myself in credit cards back, whatever, mid-'80s, early 80s, something like that. So he says, you know, I said, dude, the wolf is at the door. And he wouldn't greet me. Listen to what I'm saying. He met me at the door, but he wouldn't greet me. He just stood there and he said, there's no wolf and there's no door. There's no wolf and there's no door. And I had to stand there in that. Do you feel that? I had to stand in that. Because he wasn't going to greet me. He wasn't going to let me in his space, in his house, me asking for help with that narrative. That was tree from the knowledge of good and evil. And experiential, what it looked like to me on the outside plane. He said, we're not eating that fruit. We're going over to the other tree. We're going to the tree of life. No wolf, no door. He said, here's what we're going to do. He says, you're going to come back and you're going to bring all that unopened mail. You're going to bring all of that. All of it. He said, and we're just going to lay it out on the floor. We're going to make sense of it. And you're going to write a letter to every creditor and you're going to give them $5. I'm like, what the? $5? Do it. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Do it. It transformed me. Are you with me? Because I stopped hiding. I stopped feeling like a mess up. All of this negative story about me. Then I started to have agency in my life. I started to participate, in my life. This isn't just being reformed. This was a transformation. Are you with me? I had to surrender the story. I had to surrender the victimization. I had to surrender the creditors being the villain. And I remember when I was holding those bills, he just said, do you owe this money? And he said, did you use or get like whatever this stuff represents? And I said, yeah. She's like, what are you complaining about? What's the kind of attitude? Are you with me? Like, why are you feeling victimized by the good you manifested. Hello. Why are you feeling victimized by it now? Now you need to get into a state of gratitude. Are you with me? Because it wasn't just sending the $5, it was a thank you. A thank you in the memo note. And calling people and building relationship. Are you with me? That's the transformation. Surrendering the fight. Surrendering the struggle. Surrendering the narrative of the otherness. Getting off the victim, villain, hero triangle. Getting off of it. When your yes meets surrender. See, when I went there, it was pain pushing. But within 30 days, it was vision pulling. And I got out of all of that debt. All of it. Including the IRS. I'm telling you what I know. I got so many IRS stories, it would just make your head swim. Don't demonize. Are you with me? Don't make anything the wolf, the obstacle, the bad thing, the reason why my life isn't going to work, something that I've got to placate to, kowtow to, get permission from, seek their approval, be the prerequisite. None of that. Your God takes you just as you are. Just as I am. And then the universe will do the transformation. Are you with me? You just show up. You just show up with your yes in a complete surrender, a willingness for it to be something else, a willingness for it to be something new. Now, everybody ain't gonna like all that transformation stuff. Everybody not gonna be happy with it. Okay? Because we make these pacts, and the bond is based upon our mutual bondage. The bond is around mediocrity sometimes. Or these pacts that we make not to grow. I'll never leave you. I'm not going to grow. These pacts that we make to not forgive, to keep seeing it through the same lens. A pact you make with yourself to not forgive is a pact to stay stuck. You're saying, I know everything that there is to know. I ain't growing. There's nothing that anything the universe can tell me that will ever make me open my eyes. This is my story and I'm sticking with it. And that includes if you're not forgiving yourself. Are you willing to forgive you so that you can transform? Are you willing to experience the beauty, the bounty, the growth, the passion, the power, the grandeur that the universe has for you, but we can't see it? We don't know it. We don't even know what it looks like. We can't know what it looks like. We don't have to know what it looks like. Like it says in the sacred, yes, your job is not to make the seed. Your job's not to plant the crop. That's not your job. Your job is to be fertile enough to cultivate the soil. That's all you're doing. You're cultivating the soil of your mind so that you can be fertile enough to accept any combination of decisions that are part of the divine plan. Any combination of decisions. So when you surrender, you are letting go with your idea of how you think it ought to happen. You're no longer holding yourself or anybody else hostage to what you think has to happen or what they've got to do. You're releasing your story about what isn't there, what needs to be there, when it needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and you're standing naked in the knowingness that there's something that's bigger and smarter than you that's worked it all out. And I guarantee you that life is so much freer. It's so much more fun and peaceful and rejoicing and full of possibility than we could ever imagine. Are you willing? Are you willing? I'm going to end with this. The spiritual diehard, you want to get your pen now. This worked me. I get these spirit messages, and the definitions come of spiritual qualities where it shows what's already here, and then what we have to bring to the table in order to experience. This one is working me. So if it doesn't click initially, that's okay, because it's working me to really understand the depth of this one is so deep that I'm just like, wow. It said transformation is where your energy coalesces with my redemptive alchemy. You got to write that down. Or it's too deep to even let the brain. Transformation is where your energy coalesces with my redemptive alchemy. One more time. Transformation is where your energy coalesces with my redemptive alchemy. Alchemy is that process that's able to break everything down and to remold it. Like gold. Like you melt the gold down into something else. Redemptive. When it's redemptive, it's liberating. It's cleansed. It's purified. It's brought back to its own greatness and goodness. And alchemy, something that breaks everything down and redeems it, that breaks everything down and transforms it into something that's a blessing. See, it doesn't run away from it. It brings it into it. It greets it. It takes all the stuff and reclaims it back unto itself. Like the earth takes all our crap and redeems it through compost, makes it fertilizer for the next growth. There's something in life that does that takes all of our crap and redeems it so it makes us fertile for whatever it is that's next. Oh, and if our energy merges with that, that's transformation. That's when the transformation happens. I'll preach all night. I need to stop. This is just, woo! Yes, indeed. Yeah. So we got to get out of here because we have to come back and honor some real transformation that's been happening with people who've been dedicating themselves to the journey. So let's take a breath. You know what? There are just so many ministers and practitioners in the house. Can you stand up and can we kind of do like a little surround thing going here? There are just so many in the house. Let's just create a little vibration thing. Yeah. Even if you want to spread out some back there. So it feels like a little surround thing going on here. Can you feel that? Everything's energy. I'm going to ask that we do a prayer chamber. And what that means is that, and you can do it too from wherever you are, is that everybody's going to pray simultaneously. You're just going to be enveloped in the vortex of that vibration, where all the prayer requests that have come in, the prayers on our heart, the individual prayers, the prayers for the world, prayers for this nation. Let's speak the word right now. Let's raise the vibration. Let us pray. Oh, yes. There's something that's happening. And it's bigger and greater than anything that we can possibly imagine. As we bask and we bathe in the light, your goodness, your greatness, your grandeur. Lord, lift us up where we belong. All needs met. Your divine alchemy, healing, revealing, cleansing, purifying, lifting us up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being all needs met. Healing, health, wholeness, courage, strength, fortitude, passion, compassion, creativity, justice, balance, faith, strength, discernment, wisdom, possibility, patience, fortitude, wholeness, remembering, oneness, and integration. Can we seal this with 3 rounds of Om? Just breathe that in. so it is.